LoveLore Library. Chapter 675. Why don't you believe your highness? Su Qingji refused firmly. His attitude surprised Qin Mian and Xiao Yu. What surprised Qin Mian was the old general's love for his granddaughter. It was touching and alarming. Xiao Yu lowered his eyes slightly. He and his father had taken a fancy to Su Yingxue's medical skills, but they could not underestimate the importance the Marquis manor placed on Su Yingxue. If he had a conflict with Su Yingxue in the future, the Xiao family would probably be hurt. Su Yingxue looked at Su Qingji in confusion. Grandpa, Your Highness and Prince Yangon are different people. I won't be bullied like my cousin. How could Chu Xiaotian compare to Chu Yihan? Besides, she wouldn't keep backing down like Su Han. You haven't married yet, so how do you know? Was Heiner a stupid person? Don't you know what kind of life she is living in the regional prince's mansion? Su Qingji asked back. His imposing manner cast a shadow over Su Yingxue's heart. The firmness in her relationship with Chu Yihan seemed to have been sealed. I promise to old general that I will only marry Su Yingxue as a princess in this life. While Su Yingxue and Su Qingji were arguing, Chu Yihan spoke up forcefully. Your Highness, Su Yingxue was slightly stunned. In her heart, she naturally wanted to become Chu Yihan's one and only mistress in the prince's mansion. However, she had learned this way of thinking from her mother. In this era where it was common for men to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, it was very unrealistic. Even though Chu Yihan had promised her that he would only love her, she had also thought that there would be changes in the future and that there would be other women by his side. However, he made such a promise in public. He was the 9th prince, and a promise was worth 10,000 gold. With his character, it was destined that he would never have second thoughts about Su Yingxue after saying those words. Su Miaoyan, who was peeking outside the door, felt very touched when she heard this. 9th prince is infatuated with my sister, she pouted. What Su Yingxue obtained was something that all the women in the world dreamed of. These words were enough to move people. Even Qin Mian and Xiao Yu could not make such a promise. Qin Mian looked at Chu Yihan with admiration. Xiao Yu's fingers moved slightly. He knew very well that Chu Yihan's words had reduced his chances of winning. However, Su Qingji was unmoved. I appreciate your highness' intentions, but no one can say for sure what will happen in the future. The 9th prince's mansion is too prestigious. My granddaughter is not worthy of such a status. Grandpa. Su Yingxue bit her lip. She could not understand why her grandfather's attitude towards Chu Yihan was completely different from his attitude towards Qin Mian and Xiao Yu. They are all people who came to propose marriage to me. Why does Grandpa not believe your highness? She couldn't help but defend Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan tightened his grip on her hand. He looked at Su Qingji with a deep gaze. Old general, what must I do to make you agree to let me marry Yingxue? Chu Yihan vaguely sensed that Su Qingji was testing him. However, he did not think about what Su Qingji was dissatisfied with him about. His identity. His revenge. What Su Qingji knew was more detailed than anyone else. Whether it was his brother's disappearance back then or his mother's sudden death for no reason. Su Qingji's eyes were clearly connected to Chu Yihan's. What he was thinking was exactly what Chu Yihan was thinking. He stared deeply at Chu Yihan and said in a strong voice, I don't want Yingxue to become the 9th princess consort. Please, your highness, give up on this idea. Chapter 676. I'll only marry Chu Yihan in this life. His words were so resolute that Chu Yihan's breathing quickened. Grandpa, your highness and I, shut up. This was the first time Su Qingji had coldly shouted at Su Yingxue. He did not even let her finish her sentence. He even warned her when she was about to make a move, if you insist on marrying 9th prince, leave the Marquis manor with him now. From now on, you are no longer my granddaughter and have nothing to do with the Marquis manor. Su Qingzi's voice was loud and clear, and everyone present heard it. Even Su Miaoyan, who was outside the door, felt her heart tremble. Grandpa is angry. He wanted to chase Sister Xue out of the house. Grandpa. Su Yingxue's eyes turned red, and her hands were tightly clenched. Yihan instantly lost their strength. Yihan held her hand tightly. He had an impulse for a moment. Yingxue, are you willing to leave with me? Even if it meant leaving the Marquis manor. It meant Su Yingxue had to take a gamble that Yihan would be her only choice in the future. Su Yingxue's eyes were filled with confusion. The confusion in her eyes deeply hurt Yihan. How could she do it? She had betrayed her family for him. Yihan waited for her answer for a long time. The air gradually solidified. The front hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. The only sound of movement was Yihan releasing his grip on Su Yingxue's hand. Su Yingxue's voice trembled as she asked, "Your Highness." Yihan was still in front of her, but the moment he let go of her hand, her heart seemed to have been taken away. Yihan's footsteps were heavy as he left. Thump. Thump. It knocked on Su Yingxue's heart again and again, and every time it hit her, she could not breathe. When she regained consciousness and chased after him, Yihan was nowhere to be seen. Su Yingxue stood in the empty courtyard. Her eyes were empty as she wandered around weakly. Su Miaoyan was afraid that she would fall and quickly went up to support her. Sister. Sister, be careful. Ninth Prince, he left just now. He rode the horse, so it should have gone very far. Even if Su Yingxue chased after him now, she wouldn't be able to catch up. Yingxue, come back. Su Qingji called out to Su Yingxue, who was about to rush out of the Marquis manor. He punished her. Go to the ancestral hall to reflect on your mistakes. Grandpa. Su Yingxue's red eyes were filled with intense emotions. Go to the ancestral hall. In the end, she did not dare to go against her grandfather. The injustice of her grandfather's death in her previous life had not been repaid. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth and went to the ancestral hall. When she left, her entire body emitted a sense of powerlessness. Yingxue. Qin Mian wanted to follow, but Su Yingxue ignored him. He continued to chase forward, but Yilan blocked him. Scarlet Flame King, please have some self-respect. The ancestral hall is an important place. Other than the Su family, no one can enter. I only wanted to comfort her, Qin Mian explained. Miss doesn't need anyone's comfort now. Thank you for your kind intentions, Your Highness. Yilan rejected on behalf of Su Yingxue. Qin Mian was also a stubborn person. He did not listen to anyone's advice and insisted on chasing after Su Yingxue. He used all his patience to say what he could to Su Yingxue. However, Su Yingxue, who was kneeling in the ancestral hall, only replied indifferently, I will only marry Yihan in this life. She would not marry anyone else. Qin Mian had never suffered such a heavy blow before. However, he saw that Su Yingxue's face was full of disappointment and dejection because she was in a bad mood. Perhaps old General Su had taught her a lesson so harshly that she was no longer in the mood to deal with him. Chapter 677, You deserve the best. Qin Mian stood up and said in a strong voice, When you are feeling better, I will come to propose marriage to you. Su Yingxue was persistent that he would never let go of it. After Qin Mian left, Xiao also resigned. Compared to Yihan and Qin Mian, he didn't show any strong emotions. Instead, he remained very calm and composed after witnessing so many events. He was so indifferent that it seemed as if he wasn't involved at all. Su Miaoyan volunteered to see the guests off on behalf of her sister. When she escorted Xiao Yu, Su Qingji gave Xiao Yu a deep look. "General, I'm afraid this young man isn't simple," Su Wei said beside him. Su Qingji nodded. "He's indifferent and otherworldly, yet at ease. He's truly a talented among men. If he were the head of the family, Xiao Yu would be perfect, but as a husband." Su Qingji knew very well that he would never choose a cold-hearted person like Xiao Yu for Su Yingxue. Su Miaoyan walked to Xiao Ye's side, her long hair styled into a simple bun. The tassels on the hairpin tinkled, making her voice even crisper. "Handsome brother, why did you propose to my sister Shui? Do you like her very much?" Xiao Ye's gaze shifted to her. Under his indifference, there was a layer of pity that was difficult to see through. Xiao Yu replied, "Not bad. Not bad." Su Miaoyan was confused. How could liking someone be like evaluating food? Was there such an answer? Did he like her sister? He couldn't understand it. Xiao Si pushed Xiao Ye's wheelchair, and when he saw Su Miaoyan's confused face, he laughed so hard that his stomach hurt. His young master said that it was not bad, implying it was merely acceptable. With Su Yingxue's status and strength, she was worthy of being the young mistress of the Xiao family. Moreover, she was so beautiful that she could topple a country. It was even rarer for her to be able to cure Xiao Yu. That was why Xiao Ye's father, the head of the Xiao family, had asked Xiao Yu to come and propose marriage after weighing the pros and cons. However, it seemed that things weren't going well today. "Handsome brother, you have to be responsible for marrying my sister. You have to love her and spoil her, and you need to be very capable." When Su Miaoyan escorted Xiao Yu to the entrance of the Marquis Manor, she tilted her head and smiled at him. "Why?" Xiao Yu said indifferently. "Because Sister Shui deserves the best." After Su Miaoyan finished speaking, she pointed outside the door. "We're here, take care, handsome brother." When Su Miaoyan turned around and returned to the manor, she was still thinking that if Xiao Yu were also her brother-in-law, she would be able to see him often. She liked to see his face. How good would it be to see it every day? Xiao Yu sat in the carriage and took out a paper crane from his bosom. It was folded by Su Miaoyan when she was in Qilan Garden, and there was still a faint fragrance on it. "You deserve the best." Xiao Ye's eyes gradually deepened, and a touch of darkness covered all the light. In the Marquis Manor's ancestral hall, Su Yingxue knelt until late into the night. Yihan and Su Miaoyan kept clamoring to accompany her, but after accompanying her until midnight, Su Miaoyan still could not help but fall asleep on the ground. Yihan and the nanny brought her back, leaving Su Yingxue alone in the ancestral hall. Su Yingxue knelt until her knees went numb. She did not feel anything and did not stand up. Su Qingji came in and offered incense to his ancestors. When he looked at Su Yingxue again, he realized that her eyes were clear. Perhaps she had already cleared the fog in her heart. Su Qingji lowered his head and looked at her. "Why aren't you getting up now? Are you blaming me for not agreeing to marry you to the 9th prince?" Chapter 678, Your Highness won't see you. Su Yingxue slowly attempted to move. Her legs went numb, causing her face to twitch. Granddaughter doesn't dare to blame grandfather. After experiencing a lifetime of such mistakes, she knew that grandfather would never harm her. No matter what happened, grandfather loved her sincerely. Therefore, she didn't delve into what had happened during the day. However, after managing to stand up, she staggered 2 steps in front of Su Qingji. "But I have to tell grandfather that since I'm fond of Yihan, I must marry him." "With such determination, won't you marry anyone else in this lifetime?" "Yes, Grandpa." Su Yingxue's pitch-black eyes reflected 2 flickering candle flames, making her gaze particularly deep and serene. She didn't act impulsively. She had thought it through. Grandfather, even if it means sacrificing everything, I must be with him. There won't be anyone else in this world who loves me as much as he does. Su Yingxue was resolute and determined. Through her face, Su Qingji saw a shadow identical to hers. Father, no one in this world can stop me from doing what I want to do. I, Long Shuli, must do what I want to do, even if it means sacrificing my life. That voice was as melodious as Su Yingxue's. Su Qingji looked at her back and smiled with relief. They're mother and daughter. They're still so alike. With no one around, Su Wei came to report to Su Qingji. General, there are people from the 9th Prince's side watching outside the Marquis Manor, but they haven't entered or posed a threat to the manor's security. However, young Master Jingxuan's recent movements have been suspicious. He's gone to the 7th Prince's residence. The smile in Su Qingzi's eyes vanished instantly, replaced by a cold pressure. Keep a close watch on his every move for me. Yes, General. Su Yingxue's legs were sore as she rode to the 9th Prince's mansion. She knocked on the door as usual. When the old steward came out to see her, he sighed heavily. Miss Su, Your Highness has already retired. Please come again tomorrow. I'm afraid this marriage, it was becoming difficult. Please open the door and let me see Your Highness. Grandfather will agree to our marriage. I will marry him. Su Yingxue rubbed her knees and said earnestly to the old steward. The old steward closed the door with a regretful expression. Alt. Su Yingxue pounded on the heavy door, suddenly feeling her hands weaken. She couldn't possibly force open a door that weighed hundreds of pounds. But she had to climb over the wall. Different from before, this time she not only had to climb over the wall but also had to avoid the guards in the mansion, hiding and sneaking until she finally reached Chu Yihan's courtyard. Miss Su, you should go back. Your Highness has indeed ordered not to see you today. You don't need to come to the mansion anymore. Mo Chi held his sword and blocked her way. He, too, felt regretful, but he had the same responsibility as the old steward. No one could disobey Chu Yihan's orders. He even said, if Miss Su insists on entering today, he'll have to fall first. Su Yingxue rubbed her knees. She squatted on the ground for a moment before raising her head to ask Mo Chi, tell me, after kneeling for 6 to 8 hours, what are the chances of me beating you down? Mo Chi was speechless. They weren't high, right? They might even be relatively low. Su Yingxue massaged her knees and prepared to confront Mo Chi. Chapter 679. Chu Yihan is drunk. Mo Chi was also compelled to draw his sword. But roar! A vigorous white figure leaped down, roaring at Mo Chi and baring its teeth. Mo Chi was startled. You! Why aren't you asleep yet? Why would a big tiger stay up all night if it didn't learn something good? And it even loves to meddle in others' affairs. Shan Bao rolled its eyes. It licked Su Yingxue's knee and gently patted it with his paw. Su Yingxue looked at him in surprise. Shan Bao, are you here to help me? Shan Bao turned its head and showed a fierce expression to Mo Chi. Its massive body, sharp teeth, and agile movements just now were all terrifying. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been scared out of their wits by him. Mo Chi's legs trembled. Shan Bao, this is the master's matter. Are you sure you want to interfere? His master would deduct its meat. Roar! Shan Bao pounced at Mo Chi without hesitation, clearing the way for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue shouted excitedly at him, Shan Bao, wait for me. I'll feed you the best meat. Howl! Shan Bao had already knocked Mo Chi to the ground. He looked up and let out a long howl, appearing extremely excited. It was Mo Chi who suffered being pinned down by him. He struggled, but Shan Bao's claws hit his heart. Damn it! Mo Chi's chest was heavily pressed down, and he could hardly breathe. If this tiger made any move, wouldn't its claws tear him apart? Mo Chi glanced disdainfully at Shan Bao. You traitor! Shan Bao looked very innocent. It was just following its animal instincts, following Su Yingxue to get some meat to eat. Why couldn't these people understand? Su Yingxue barged into the study. She knew Yihan must be here. Your Highness. However, the scene that met her eyes was something she had never imagined in her life. The ground was littered with wine jars. A strong gust of wind carrying the smell of blood blew over. Su Yingxue was choked by someone. This immense force could snap her neck in an instant. Your Highness. Su Yingxue's timely voice helped Yihan's hazy eyes gradually clear. His eyes were bloodshot, and the blood vessels in his eyes were rampant and dense, forming a net that enveloped his eyes, along with complex emotions. Yihan released his grip. The warm touch on his hand reminded him that the person in front of him was Su Yingxue. If he didn't let go, he would hurt her. So he simply let go. Su Yingxue was released and coughed heavily. Cough. Your Highness, why are you drinking so much? She didn't know if Yihan's alcohol tolerance was good, but she could tell that Yihan wasn't a person who liked to drink. Other than at palace banquets, she had never seen him drink, but now. Your Highness, can you please stop drinking? She stepped forward, wanting to take the wine jug from his hand, but he waved it away. I want to drink, you go. Your Highness, Yihan's long hair was somewhat disheveled, and he didn't look as noble anymore. There was a sense of helplessness and dejection in him. This was an emotion that Su Yingxue had never seen from this man in her previous and current lives. How could the ninth prince, even more honorable than the emperor, the heavens' favored son, drown his sorrows in wine? Yihan's mind was intoxicated by the wine, but he still remembered clearly that he was forced to let go of Su Yingxue's hand in the Marquis manner. He waited for her. But she didn't hold his hand or chase after him. Chapter 680, Su Yingxue, come down. Between her family and him, she had made her choice. As for Yihan, he was not so honored to be her choice. Your Highness, I don't want to explain anything to you, but I want to tell you something. Turn around and look at me. Su Yingxue mustered up her courage as her heart pounded wildly in her chest. Yihan's hand on the table tightened slightly. Should he turn around? What if it was a deeper rejection? She came to tell him that she had chosen the Marquis manor and her family, abandoned his love, and cut off all ties with him. Or did she think that Miaoyan and Xiao were more suitable for her than him? Yihan's mind was filled with these thoughts, making him extremely frustrated. No turning around. He wouldn't have to face her. He could even be a little rough. You can leave. The red silk in the residence has been removed. This was something he ordered people to do after returning from the Marquis manor. Forget about the marriage. What's the point of keeping these red things? An eyesore. Why do you want to tear it down? Don't tell me you won't marry me. Yihan, you're a traitor. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth in anger. Did he just say that he wasn't going to marry her? When did I betray you? I want to marry you, but you, Su Qingji did not agree, so she did not take another step forward. Aren't I here? Yihan, if you don't marry me, I'll make sure that you won't be able to marry anyone else for the rest of your life. What mature, steady, calm and composed. Screw all of them. She wanted Yihan. Su Yingxue jumped onto Yihan's body and wrapped her legs around his waist. Her entire body was hanging on his body like a pendant, and her arms were tightly wrapped around his neck. This change came a little too quickly. Yihan rubbed his sore forehead. His nose was filled with the unique fragrance of the girl's body. There was also a faint herbal fragrance. The wine pot emitted a strong smell of alcohol, which instantly made him feel a little disgusted. He threw away the wine pot in his hand and said in a low and hoarse voice, "Yingxue, come down." "I'm not going down." "Come down." "I'm not going, I'm not going, I'm not going." "If you don't come down, don't blame me for making a move on you. If you have the ability, throw me out, or I won't come down." Yingxue bit her lip and held Yihan tightly. She did not believe that Yihan would dare to throw her out. Yihan let her hug him. The pain that Yingxue imagined did not come. Instead, her shoulders sank. Yihan rested his head on her neck. The smell of alcohol mixed with his cold fragrance enveloped Yingxue. His deep and hoarse voice exuded the elegance of a mature man, making one intoxicated. "Yingxue, if you don't go down, I won't let you go." Yingxue would usually be shocked when she heard this. But at this moment, she liked his possessiveness. She even playfully blew into his ear. "If I don't go down, what will happen to me?" Yihan's body was ignited by her as if a fire had been lit within him, and it spread from his heart. He could no longer restrain himself and pulled Yingxue down. Then, he pushed her a few steps away. "Yingxue, stay away from me. If you can't be my princess, then let's go." "I'm not leaving." Yingxue's eyes reddened as well. She clung onto Yihan's shoulders, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed his lips forcefully. This time, she was the one leading the way. The kiss went deep. Until she deliberately indulged him, allowing Yihan to take over everything she said. This was a war without smoke. For the first time, Yihan felt that victory was not in his grasp. Chapter 681, Feiquan Pavillion. The woman before him was breathtakingly beautiful, with cheeks as fair as bone china, tinged with a blush that stirred the heart. He could restrain himself once, twice, thrice. However, he couldn't guarantee that he could restrain himself every time. His voice, lowered and tinged with threat, also carried a hint of alcohol as he exhaled. "Yingxue, do you realize how dangerous you are right now?" Yingxue's whole body felt ablaze. "I can sort of feel it." "Then why aren't you leaving?" "I don't want to leave, nor do I dare." She feared that if she left now, she would lose Yihan completely. "Yihan, I haven't liked you for over a decade, but starting now, I'm willing to spend the next several decades liking you. Are you willing to?" Yingxue's voice was as delicate as a mosquito's buzz. With her lips mere inches away from Yihan's, every word she uttered allowed him to envision the shape of her lips. There was no longer any distance between them. The string in Yihan's mind, which had been tightly wound, snapped. The fire within him burst through his chest, consuming everything. Amidst the ambiguity, there was a scent of intoxicating fragrance and sweaty sweetness. On the soft couch in the study, figures intertwined, as if they wanted to lay bare all their hearts, burning away everything in the world with the fervent flames of love. The sunlight streamed lazily into the room, illuminating Yihan's golden robe with a few streaks of light. Yingxue awoke sore all over. As she moved, Yihan's robe slid off her, revealing her snow-white skin dotted with plum blossom marks wherever the sunlight touched, some marks causing embarrassment. Covering her eyes, Yingxue recalled last night's scene, her face flushing with embarrassment. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, it was truly unforgettable. But where did Yihan go? Yingxue's clothes lay scattered on the floor. Wrapping herself in Yihan's robe, she tentatively called out, "Your Highness." Only her echo reverberated in the study. Yihan was nowhere to be found. Su Yingxue's heart sank. After fiery passion, was there nothing but cold indifference? She pouted, contemplating whether she should leave first when the door creaked open. Startled, she quickly covered herself with the robe. A tall figure blocked out all the sunlight, but his face, backlit, was stunning. Yihan approached her silently, lifting her without a word, and circumventing the courtyard, arrived in front of a towering pavilion. The towering roof, grand red bricks, and intricate carvings of dragons and phoenixes on the pillars were awe-inspiring. If the splendor outside was already beyond the reach of ordinary people in a lifetime, the nobility and elegance inside were even more enticing. Looking up, Su Yingxue saw that the roof was transparent, the glazed tiles emitting a dazzling five-colored light under the sunlight. Beautiful yet not glaring. "Your Highness, what place is this?" Su Yingxue couldn't help but wonder. Though she hadn't explored every corner of the Ninth Prince's mansion, she had seen most of it. Yet, she had never seen this place before. Yihan carried her up the frosted white jade steps, each step made of rare white jade. Even Su Yingxue, born into a marquis family, would only use this frosted white jade to make bracelets or hairpin decorations. Yet, here, the steps were made of frosted white jade. Incredibly precious. As Yihan ascended the steps, he informed her, "This is the Feiquan Pavillion." Chapter 682. The first time I met my mother-in-law. Su Yingxue had never heard of it before, but it must have taken a lot of effort to build this place. The sparkling light of the glass attracted her. She turned her head and saw a hot spring. Layers of white mist rose from the pool, and the sound of flowing spring water gradually came. The beauty in front of her was as beautiful as a dream. Feiquan Pavillion. Is it a natural hot spring? Su Yingxue smelled it. It was the smell of natural spring water and the abundant spiritual energy in the mountains. It was fresh and sweet. Yihan nodded and carefully placed her into the pool. The moment her body was wrapped in the hot spring, Su Yingxue's soreness and fatigue were relieved. She was soaking in the pool. When she looked up at Yihan, she squinted her eyes comfortably. Yihan used a handkerchief to gently wipe her body. His fingers caressed the marks on her body, and the corners of his lips curled up unconsciously when he recalled that he had left them last night. Su Yingxue turned around and lay in front of Yihan. Her small feet kept splashing in the water. She smiled. "Would your Highness come here alone to enjoy yourself? I'm afraid that even the imperial palace would find it difficult to build one. Not to mention how much money had been spent, just the exquisite design and the difficulty of laying glazed tiles on the roof were not something that could be done by ordinary craftsmen. Only a person who could make people submit to him could gather so many people to build this building." Yihan pinched her little face. "This is my mother's place. Today, I'm bringing you to see her." Su Yingxue's eyes widened. Yihan pointed at the wall opposite him. There was a painting of a beautiful lady hanging on the flawless white wall. The woman in the painting was as beautiful as a fairy. The sweet smile on her lips was very touching. Su Yingxue could not help but sigh. "It's so beautiful." A portrait was already so beautiful, and it was unknown how beautiful she would be in person. When Su Yingxue was moved by Imperial Consort Shu's beauty, she suddenly remembered that she was Yihan's mother. She covered her face and cried out, "Oh!" He wanted to jump out of the pool and run out. "What's wrong? Is the water hot?" Yihan quickly hugged her. His hand touched the hot spring water. The temperature was relatively high, but it was not so hot that Su Yingxue screamed in panic. "No!" Su Yingxue's face was so red that it looked like it had been cooked. "This is my first time meeting your mother. How can it be like this? Even though Imperial Consort Xiao had passed away many years ago, it was still her first time meeting her mother-in-law. She should bathe, change her clothes, and worship her mother-in-law. Now, what was the situation now? She came to his mother's place after she had sex with Yihan. Could Yihan let me be mentally prepared, she thought. When Yihan heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Mother has already met you. It meant that no matter what it looked like, it was already the truth. She was already his princess. After Yingxue had showered and changed, Yihan said that he would bring her back to the Marquis Manor. If he returned at this time, he would face Su Qingzi's rage. However, since they had done such a thing, they had to have the courage to face it and the ability to bear the consequences. Yingxue and Yihan held hands and walked into the manor together. At the door were Su Miaoyan and Yilan, who had been on tenterhooks for a long time. When the two of them saw Yingxue, they quickly went to her side. Sister Shui, you worried me to death. Sincerity is to make me feel that only your Highness is the most suitable person for Yingxue. As for ability, want your Highness to do it and use your most precious thing as a betrothal gift. Although Su Qingzi was a military general, he was not inferior to the Prime Minister. His meticulous thinking was admirable. Yingxue could guess that the first sentence was to ask Yihan to reject Xiao Yu and Qin Mayan's marriage proposal, even if he was the most suitable person for him. As for Yihan's most precious possession, Yingxue was a little hesitant. She didn't know what her grandfather wanted, nor did she know what Yihan would do. I agree. Yihan did not hesitate at all. His decisiveness made Su Qingzi feel a sense of admiration. Chapter 684. Get rid of Xiao Yu first, in that case, I will wait and see. After Su Qingzi said this, Yihan knew what he was going to do. He wanted to go to Qilin Garden, and Yingxue grabbed his hand and ran after him. Su Qingzi shook his head and sighed. As expected, a grown woman can't be kept. Su Miaoyan had unknowingly caught up to the carriage. It was a little fierce last night, so Yingxue couldn't ride a horse today. She could only sit obediently beside Yihan. There was even a thick mattress under her butt. Su Miaoyan's innocent eyes looked at Yingxue enviously. Sister Shui, brother-in-law treats you so well. He was afraid that you would hurt yourself when you sat in the carriage, so he put such a thick cushion on it. Su Yingxue's lips twitched awkwardly. It's not particularly good. After all, it was Yihan's fault. Yihan lowered his head and glanced at her. Didn't I treat you well enough last night? Enough. But, Yingxue glared at Yihan. Didn't she know that Su Miaoyan was still a child? How could he say that in front of her? She doesn't understand. Yihan was very certain. Yingxue turned around and saw that Su Miaoyan's small face was clean and pure. Yingxue was so frightened that her heart was pounding. She told Su Miaoyan, "It's good to lay a thick cushion. You will experience it in the future." However, as a doctor, she could not help but remind Su Miaoyan, but it's best not to experience it. After all, it will hurt even more when you use the medicine. Alt? Su Miaoyan was confused. However, thanks to Yingxue, she had experienced this kind of kindness for quite some time after marrying Xiao Yu. They had arrived at Qilin Garden. When he heard that Yingxue came with Yihan, Xiao Yu put down the account book in his hand and got someone to prepare to entertain Yihan. However, Xiao Si was worried. Young master, this 9th prince brought Miss Su to the door aggressively. Don't tell me he's angry and wants to attack you again. Xiao Yu shook his head. Yihan only loses his mind once in a while. A man who had been through countless battles won every battle, and was incomparably wise, had cultivated a peerless martial arts technique. He was not going to use it to fight and kill in life. This time, Yihan would only come to negotiate with him. Miaoyan Pavillion. A refreshing fragrance floated in the light of the golden Nanmu. It was exceptionally beautiful. The 4 people sitting in the hall all had rare beauty. Yihan was a heavenly being, Xiao was elegant and noble, Yingxue was peerlessly beautiful, and even Miaoyan was a little fairy created from spiritual energy. Sitting together with such people, they looked pleasing to the eyes but also made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Xiao didn't dare to stand beside Xiao to serve him as usual. He could only wait obediently at the door, afraid that his ordinary face would become strange inside. In the reception hall, Xiao, as the host, spoke first. Your Highness, it's an honor for my Qilin garden to welcome you. May I know why your Highness has come today? Yihan didn't beat around the bush. I hope that you can cancel the marriage proposal to Yingxue and find another good wife. Yingxue also said, Young Master Xiao, I know that you don't like me and want to marry me. It's only because you fancy my identity as the daughter of the Marquis Manners family and my medical skills that can cure you. Isn't this kind of marriage proposal a little too hasty? Moreover, his motive was too strong. If others saw through it at a glance, it would be meaningless. Chapter 685. Truly powerful. Xiao lifted his head. On his sickly pale face, there was a captivating aura of restraint. No matter what, the Xiao family has the sincerity to marry Miss Su as the young madam. I think that this is enough. What he meant was that it didn't matter whether he liked it or not. As for asking him to give up, the pride in Xiao's bones was something that his many years of illness had not been able to torture away. I am not as noble as your Highness, but the Xiao family is not an ordinary family either. Xiao, are you unwilling to give up? Yihan's deep eyes emitted a dangerous aura. Xiao dared to look Yihan in the eye and still said, I have no reason to give up, just like your Highness. The reason why he was determined to get Yingxue was because of love. Xiao's reason was profit. They were all real reasons. What if I tell you that you can only benefit if you don't marry her? Yihan tapped the table lightly. He did not look like he was here to negotiate at all. It was the same in the Xiao family as it was in the 9th prince's mansion. There was even a hint of leisure in his eyes. Xiao could not understand Yihan. His many years of business experience told him that Yihan seemed to have come prepared. But what did he prepare? Xiao's slender and well-defined hands picked up the green jade glass cup and gently took a sip of the tea. His movements were extremely elegant. Miaoyan sat next to Yingxue and peeked at Xiao. She felt that Xiao looked better and better the more she looked at him. Xiao was just right in her sense of aesthetics, not a single bit more, not a single bit less. Xiao took a sip of tea and thought of many things. Your Highness means that if I insist on marrying Miss Su, I will be making an enemy out of you. Your Highness has a high position and authority, and you have a large army in your hands. Even the Emperor has to show some courtesy. However, my Xiao family has been in business for 100 years. Compared to ordinary merchant families, we are still a little more profound. Our military supplies have also not declined for many years. It will not be easy for your Highness to destroy the Xiao family in an instant. Yingxue pinched the tea lid playfully and tightened her grip. He had to admit that what Xiao said was not without reason. Although Yihan was powerful, the Xiao family's century-old foundation couldn't be shaken in a day. Yihan laughed lightly and did not continue to discuss this topic with Xiao. Instead, he asked, have you heard of Qianjizi, young Master Xiao? Xiao nodded. The leader of the Qianji sect is said to be extremely wise. The Qianji sect is proficient in countless mysterious techniques and had once made the four countries afraid. Because of this, Qianji became arrogant and wanted to compete with the four countries. He wanted to have a high position and achieve hegemony for thousands of years. However, later on, Qianji was killed by Your Highness, and the Qianji sect was destroyed. No one survived. Xiao's cold and steady eyes turned towards Yihan. This was a famous battle in the war that led to Your Highness' reputation. That's right, I've heard of it too. Originally, the ninth prince had a heart of cherishing talents and sent people to persuade Qianji to surrender. However, Qianji didn't give the ninth prince any face and became more arrogant. Therefore, he and the Qianji sect were all eliminated by the ninth prince. Miaoyan cupped her small face. Her narration was not as heavy as Xiao's, and her lively and sweet voice made the air sweeter. A smile flashed across Xiao's eyes. Yingxue poked Miaoyan's little face. You know quite a bit. This is what the ninth prince wrote in his book, The Battle of the Qianji Sect. The story of the third volume of the Peerless Martial Soul is really interesting. Chapter 686. Be Chu Yihan's friend. Miaoyan blinked. Chu Jinling was her good playmate, so she naturally appreciated his masterpiece. However, she did not notice that when she mentioned Chu Jinling, Xiao's eyes darkened, and he emitted a murderous aura. Chu Yihan sensed that Xiao cared more about Miaoyan. From the moment they came in until now, Xiao had only glanced at Yingxue once, but his gaze on Miaoyan was much more. Moreover, he quickly restrained himself, as if he did not want others to notice. Chu Yihan sipped his tea lightly. I'm not trying to show off by mentioning this. I just have something to tell young Master Xiao. Your Highness, please speak. Xiao gently raised his hand. Chu Yihan looked up and his gaze fell on Xiao. 1,000 cavalry sweeping across the battlefield. All the schemes will become a joke. This is true power. Xiao's body trembled slightly. His soul trembled slightly before returning to its original position. 1,000 cavalry sweeping across, this was true power? Was that so? Of course. Was Qianji not smart? Was that the smartest person in the world? His plan wasn't good. Didn't he have a lot of nimble traps? No. It was the most in 9 continents. They had once occupied cities and fought against the imperial court. But what was the result? The entire Qianji sect was destroyed by Chu Yihan's cavalry. He, Xiao, relied on his intelligence and status, but he might not be able to compare to Qianji. The Xiao family had a huge business, but they might not be as strict as the Qianji sect. Was the Qianji sect the example of the Xiao family? Xiao, I know that you are a smart person. Rather than bringing disaster to the Xiao family, why don't you have me as a friend? Chu Yihan smiled. Friends? What does Your Highness mean? Xiao frowned. If you give up on Yingxue and find another good wife, I will make you my friend. Will you reject me? I won't. Xiao quickly answered with certainty. Some powerful people would only make others want to be friends with them. Because being an enemy was too terrifying. Just like the shattered Qianji sect, Xiao wouldn't use the Xiao family as a bet. He loosened his grip on his thumb and index finger, and his expression relaxed a little. Your Highness is indeed extraordinary. Let's forget about the marriage between Miss Su and me. I'll immediately send someone to explain it to old General Su. In that case, I'll have to trouble young Master Xiao. Yingxue narrowed her eyes and smiled. She looked at Chu Yihan with admiration in her eyes. Your Highness was amazing. Chu Yihan and Yingxue still had things to do, so Xiao didn't ask them to stay. After sending them off, Xiao looked at Yihan and said, "Your Highness, you won't forget that we're friends, right?" "Of course not. When young Master Xiao finds another wife, I will prepare a generous gift." "All right." The two men had already communicated silently in their eyes. Su Miaoyan did not see it at all. Su Yingxue did not understand. She held Chu Yihan's arm. "Your Highness, what did you and Xiao agree on?" They had clearly said it in front of her, but she had not been able to understand their words thoroughly. This was a headache. Chu Yihan glanced at Su Yingxue. "You're leaving your sister here?" Su Yingxue replied, "Oh, it's nothing. Xiao will send a carriage to send her back at night. Besides, it's much quieter at Xiao's place than at home. She can also read and practice more." Chapter 687, Afternoon at Home. Su Miaoyan was forced to do all this and was completely unaware. Chu Yihan glanced at her meaningfully but said nothing more. He then took her to the palace. Qinghe Palace. The audience had concluded, and all envoys had departed from the great Qing dynasty, yet Qin Mian remained for the marriage proposal. Su Yingxue didn't know what he was thinking. Chu Minyuan treated him well, allowing him to stay in the palace as long as he wished. Since Su Hao guarded the border between the Great Wei dynasty and the Great Qing dynasty, there wouldn't be any trouble. When Qin Mian heard that Su Yingxue had been punished for kneeling the night before, he rushed to the Marquis Manor to see her early in the morning. However, the people at the Marquis Manor said Su Yingxue hadn't returned. Qin Mian then received news that Su Yingxue was at the 9th Prince's mansion. He had already gathered his subordinates and made preparations to barge into the 9th Prince's mansion and bring Su Yingxue out. Unexpectedly, the people from the Great Wei dynasty had returned, and he was about to meet them. However, as soon as Su Yingxue arrived, he didn't even hear a word from his subordinate before rushing to the main hall. Wei Ju followed him, looking nervous. "Your Highness. Your Highness, at least listen to what he has to say first. There's still your mother's order." "Wait. Nothing is more important than me meeting Yingxue." Qin Mian was in a hurry. After a few steps, he left Wei Ju behind. Wei Ju wiped the sweat off his forehead. He felt that Qin Mian must have been bewitched by Su Yingxue. In the main hall, besides Su Yingxue, there was also Chu Yihan. The way their fingers were intertwined made Qin Mian extremely unhappy. He rushed forward, his well-defined face emitting anger. "Chu Yihan, you're still a man. Use your abilities to marry Yingxue. Otherwise, don't be entangled with her like this. I will naturally marry her." Chu Yihan glanced at Su Yingxue and replied gently. "I won't let you go either. The old General Su said that I can fight with you." He couldn't care less about who Xiao was, but Chu Yihan, they were originally rivals, and now that they had fallen in love with the same woman, they were even more mortal enemies. "I'm here to agree with you. When and where I will fight with you to the end." The atmosphere of war was ignited between Chu Yihan and Qin Mian. Su Yingxue widened her eyes. "You want to compete with Qin Mian? Martial arts competition? Fight?" This was too sudden. Qin Mian's eyes flashed with excitement. "Chu Yihan, you dare to compete with me? I should be the one asking you this. Do you dare to compete with me to your heart's content? The loser will not be qualified to marry her." Chu Yihan's entire body exuded an awe-inspiring aura. He was already stunningly beautiful, and this aura was even more shocking. "Good." Qin Mian laughed out loud. "I was worried that I wouldn't have a chance to compete with you. Now is the perfect time." "I agree. Tomorrow, in the west of the city, I will compete with you to see who is qualified to marry Yingxue." "Good." Yihan agreed. What's so good about it? Have you ever considered my feelings when you used my marriage as a bet? Yingxue was so angry that she wanted to hit someone. Miaoyan was like a fighting dog. Why was Yihan being so irrational? This wasn't like him. Yingxue, it's not that we don't care about your feelings. It's just that both of us are determined to marry you, so we must fight. Yihan and I are almost the same in terms of status. I can see that he loves you deeply. I, Miaoyan, am not a promiscuous person. I am willing to do everything for the person I have set my mind on. Chapter 688, Bloody Man, but this concerns the dignity of Yihan and me. We are not only love rivals, but also enemies on the battlefield. That's right. Yihan pressed on Yingxue's palm. I will fight him. Of course, if Yihan loses, Yingxue, you can also reject my proposal. I will wait until you agree. Miaoyan's words were deeply moved. Yihan chuckled. You won't have the chance to be rejected by her. Yingxue would only agree to be his princess after he won. Yihan, I like your valiant personality. This time, no matter who wins or loses, it will be an exciting battle. Miaoyan's blood was boiling. He was already so excited that he couldn't control himself. Yingxue was powerless to stop such a huge battle from happening. When she was taken away by Yihan, she was extremely worried. Your Highness, I've heard that Miaoyan is the strongest martial artist in the Great Wei dynasty. If you fight with him, both sides will suffer. No, I can't. He and I will decide on the victor. This isn't just a battle between me and him, but also a duel between the Great Wei dynasty and the Great Qing dynasty. If he couldn't retreat, he wouldn't go back on his word. But, when Yingxue thought of Yihan fighting Miaoyan, countless unsafe images popped up in her mind, making her extremely anxious. Yihan cupped her face and kissed her. Wait for me at the manor tonight. I need to prepare for tomorrow's battle. Yingxue was sent back to the Marquis manor by him. Not long after, Miaoyan was also sent back by Xiao. When she saw Yingxue's grave expression, she blinked her eyes, which were filled with spiritual energy. Sister, what happened? Didn't handsome brother agree not to propose? What do you and your Highness have to worry about? Do you know the Scarlet Flame King? Yingxue's heart was heavy. Miaoyan tilted her head. The Scarlet Flame King is the god of war of the Great Wei dynasty. The ninth prince was also a legendary figure in the book. Speaking of which, he was also one of the people who proposed marriage to her sister. Sister, you're amazing. Not only Yihan and Xiao, but even Miaoyan of the Great Wei dynasty liked her sister. Miaoyan admired Yingxue's charm. Your Highness, tomorrow, he wants to compete with him. Yingxue was supported by Miaoyan and unknowingly walked to the front hall. Everyone in the hall heard what she said. Qingji nodded his head in agreement. Both of them are men of blood. They are admirable. But when the time comes, I'm afraid no one will be able to retreat unscathed. It was rare for Han to come back, and she was worried for Yingxue. Yingxue's frown deepened. She would rather that the two of them were not men of blood. She locked herself up in the medicine hut without any energy. Miaoyan sighed. I think Sister Shui won't be able to eat well or sleep today. Qingji felt that his child was not delicate and waved his hand boldly. Let her be. If she doesn't rest well today, she'll be even more worried when she goes to watch the battle tomorrow. Grandfather, aren't you afraid that these two Your Highness will get injured or crippled when they fight? Sister will still marry ninth prince. Miaoyan jumped in front of Qingji and asked nimbly. A man fights on the battlefield, why should he be afraid of being injured? Su Qingji replied boldly. Chapter 689. Su Han's reminder. Su Miaoyan's lips twitched awkwardly. Grandpa was indeed a great general. She should go and comfort Sister Shui. After she left, only Su Han and Su Qingji were left in the front hall. Heiner, you've been resting at home for a long time. Are you feeling better? Su Qingji asked with concern. Su Han nodded and smiled. Thank you for your concern, Grandpa. Heiner's much better now. I missed my family when I wasn't in the Marquis Manor these days, but why didn't I see Brother Jinxian today? Su Jinxian was a loner, but Su Qingji was tolerant enough to not restrict his movements. However, Su Qingji was a little wary when Su Han mentioned it alone today. Heiner, do you have something to tell Grandpa? Su Han had always been thoughtful and meticulous, so she wouldn't talk about a person for no reason. Su Han looked around and saw that there was no one around. She walked to Su Qingji and whispered something. After that, she sat on her seat, a trace of worry in her elegant eyes. Yingxue is feeling uneasy because of the battle between the two, Your Highness. It's not good to let this matter worry her again, but Grandpa has to be on guard for the sake of the Marquis Manor and Yingxue. Su Qingji looked at her with approval in his eyes. You're a thoughtful and good child. Su Han smiled and said, Yingxue saved my life and helped me escape from the abyss. I will repay her kindness. Besides, the Su family is bound to prosper and fall together. I must think for my sister. Su Qingji was very pleased. He had been fighting for many years, so he couldn't care about his children. However, he still felt sorry for Su Han. Heiner, don't worry about the past. When you feel better, I will find you a good marriage. Grandpa doesn't have to worry. Su Han's eyes were filled with sadness. Heiner has brought shame to the Su family. Grandpa already loves Heiner a lot by not blaming me. From now on, Heiner will stay at home to serve my parents and accompany them for the rest of their lives. Nonsense. It was the regional prince's mansion that made things difficult for you. When did you bring shame to the Su family? As long as Grandpa is here, you can be like Yingxue and be a free child. If you have someone you like, Grandpa will personally go and propose marriage for you. Su Qingzi's tone was sonorous, and his deep voice was filled with deep affection. Su Han's eyes reddened instantly. She was the eldest daughter of the Su family's eldest branch. Although her father did not inherit the title of nobility, he was still a high official in the court. Her mother was also born into a prestigious family. Therefore, she had been educated since she was young to bear the responsibility of the family, set an example, and do what the eldest daughter should do. The rules of etiquette were the shackles that she could not break free from. Therefore, even though the regional prince's mansion had treated her like that, she did not dare to resist and took it on with all her might. Later on, it was because of her life that she decided to break off all ties. In the end, it was also to preserve the face of the family. She knew that she, Su Han, had become a laughingstock in Jiangdu City. She still had to force a smile. She couldn't lose the demeanor of an eldest daughter and couldn't let her parents worry. However, her grandpa's words today touched her greatly. A tear flowed out of the corner of her eye. Thank you for your love, Grandpa. Don't say such polite words. If you're bored at home, come and find Yingxue and Miao. You're all girls of the Su family. You must live for yourself and live a wonderful life. After Su Qingji said this, he sighed heavily, as if he had recalled some heavy past. Chapter 690. Watching Yihan grow up. Yes, Grandpa, Heiner will abide by your teachings. Su Han smiled and took her leave. When she arrived, the sky was covered in dark clouds, and as she departed, it remained the same. Yet, she felt as if she had glimpsed sunlight, bringing a hint of vibrancy to her eyes. "Miss, Master sent me to escort you." A rough male voice rang out. The voice startled Yihan. Looking down, she saw a man clad in armor with an iron mask. He seemed familiar. "Are you General Song?" Song Qingyi nodded. "Yes. You. Why do you look like this?" Yihan was taken aback. Ever since Yihan got into trouble, Su Dingwei had been concerned about her and decided to select one of his subordinates to accompany and protect her. To avoid causing her parents to worry, she agreed to this arrangement. However, upon seeing Song Qingyi, she couldn't help but be surprised. General Song holds a high military rank. It seems like it would be a waste for him to protect me. I'll report back to father so I don't need to trouble General Song. Yihan was polite. Song Qingyi glanced at her and asked, "Miss, am one frightening you?" Ordinary people reacted to him the way Yihan did. At first glance, Yihan seemed taken aback. Yihan pressed her lips together. "Not at all. Miss, do you know this General Song?" Yihan whispered. "Indeed, he's a bit scary." Though Song Qingyi may not have heard Yihan, Yihan reprimanded her. Yihan apologized to General Song. "He is father's subordinate and tasked with protecting me. Do not speak ill of him." Song Qingyi felt somewhat overwhelmed. "Miss, there's no need for such formality. I was injured in battle, and my appearance is unattractive, my voice unpleasant. One often startle people. It's my fault. General Song, do not underestimate yourself. It was my maid's thoughtlessness." Yihan apologized at once. Yihan's tone turned stern. Yihan realized her mistake and immediately knelt before Song Qingyi. "One didn't mean any offense. Please forgive me." Song Qingyi shook his head. He didn't wish to frighten Yihan further, so he remained silent. Once Yihan boarded the carriage, he mounted his horse and escorted her back. Yihan paid no mind, but she failed to notice the fervent determination in the eyes beneath the iron mask. Meanwhile, in the medicine hut, Su Yingxue's expression remained grim. Despite Saint Juan and Su Miaoyan's playful banter, her lips remained tightly pressed. Unable to bear it, Saint Juan stood on a stool and huffed. "What's there to worry about? That's Yihan. I've known him since he was a child and he's never been defeated." "Braggart. Your Highness is much older than sister. How could you have watched him grow up?" Su Miaoyan teased, sticking out her tongue at Saint Juan. Observing Saint Juan's smooth face, Su Miaoyan couldn't help but compare it to Su Yingxue's. He watched Yihan grow up. Pfft. Saint Juan raised his charming peach blossom eyes. "72. What?" Su Miaoyan tumbled off the stool and onto the ground, wincing in pain. Her butt hurt. Su Yingxue reached out to help her, and Su Miaoyan's eyes widened in shock. "Sister, is he telling the truth?" Su Yingxue nodded matter-of-factly. "Absolutely. He's quite the old man." "Eek!" Su Miaoyan's mouth gaped wide enough to fit her fist. Why would an old man have such flawless skin? Chapter 691. Yihan and Su Yingxue were both going to die. It wasn't that Su Miaoyan was jealous, her teenage skin was nothing compared to Saint Juan's. This was so infuriating. Saint Juan touched his smooth skin with a hint of pride. "Staying youthful is just my specialty." Su Miaoyan felt deeply envious. She knew people aged, but someone like Saint Juan, an old man still looking so youthful at over 70, was truly enviable. Suddenly, she wanted to seek his advice. Saint Juan squinted mischievously. "Little miss, do you want to stay forever young? Come, let me show you how." As he spoke, he stealthily pulled out a bottle of poison from his sleeve. Yingxue slapped his head. "How dare you corrupt my sister? I'll beat you to death." Hiss. "That's it. Maintain this momentum until Yihan and Miaoyan's duel tomorrow. I guarantee that Yihan will win." Rubbing his head, Saint Juan raised his chin at Yingxue. Yingxue suddenly realized Saint Juan was teasing her deliberately, hoping she wouldn't be so anxious. Saint Juan detested discussions about his age, but for Yingxue's sake, he had to endure it. He placed a hand on her shoulder and admitted, "With my 70 years of experience, let me tell you, the duel between Yihan and Miaoyan isn't just about them. Instead of worrying here about him getting hurt or such, you'd better prepare the best golden wound medicine for him. No matter how badly he's injured, even the King of Hell can't take him away from you. That way, it'll put his mind at ease." "Shut up. Your Highness won't get hurt. Let alone die." Angered, Yingxue kicked Saint Juan away. But she had to admit, he was right. Her worries couldn't change the fact that she didn't want either Yihan or Miaoyan hurt, so she had to prepare the medicine. Miaoyan assisted Yingxue for a long time and insisted on going with her the next day. Yingxue didn't argue and took her along. In their eyes, they were only concerned about Yihan and Miaoyan's showdown. Little did they know, at that moment in the palace, Qingye, clad in armor, walked into the imperial study with a solemn and murderous aura. "Father, the imperial guards have been mobilized. All the secret guards and experts around me have already been stationed in ambush to the west of the city." On Chu Minjiwan's desk lay a precious sword. His composed face betrayed a barely contained excitement and eagerness. "After so many years. I've waited so long, and finally, the opportunity is here." Yihan. "Father, this time, one will spare no effort to bring Yihan's head to you." Qingye knelt, his eyes oozing with a sinister aura. "No. One want to behead him personally. You must capture him alive. One want to present my 9th brother to father personally." Miaoyan unsheathed his sword, its blade emanating a chilling light, symbolizing imperial authority. This was the great Qing dynasty's imperial sword. Something that rightfully belonged to him, but his father had wanted to bestow it upon the young Yihan. How could he accept that? Qingye nodded. "Yes, father, one will ensure that Yihan is brought to you alive, and his head will be displayed on the city gate tower. All his military power will be seized." "Good. If his military power is seized, I will hand you the imperial seal and proclaim you crown prince." Miaoyan made a solemn promise. The temptation of inheriting the empire was enough to make Qingye risk everything. He had been eyeing the Marquis manor for a long time. Knowing that Yihan intended to find Miaoyan, he began to make arrangements. He secretly mobilized troops and set up an ambush as quickly as possible. This time, he sought to avenge his past. Yingxue and Yihan had to die. Chapter 692, Decisive battle. The forest to the west of the city was vast and flat. Miaoyan had arrived early in the morning, waiting there with his gleaming Qie sword. Yihan and Yingxue seemed to have a telepathic connection. Although they hadn't arranged to meet, they both arrived simultaneously. Yingxue ran to Yihan's side. "Your Highness." Yihan saw the worry on her beautiful face and reassured her, gently pressing her forehead. "Don't be afraid. It'll be fine." Yingxue smiled bitterly. She truly didn't know how to respond to this comfort. How could there be no accidents in a battle between experts? Yingxue, if one defeat Yihan today, will you blame me? Miaoyan walked over to Su Yingxue and asked, his expression serious, not at all like he was joking. Su Yingxue's heart sank. You won't have the chance, Yihan immediately interjected, cutting off the difficult question he had posed to Su Yingxue. Before the match began, they silently agreed, regardless of life or death, victory will be determined. Yihan nodded. Regardless of life or death, victory will be determined. In other words, they wouldn't stop until one emerged victorious. Oh my God, they're not backing down. Are they going to fight to the death? Su Miaoyan exclaimed, covering her face in shock. This gamble was too significant. Your Highness, this won't do. If you don't return, how will I explain it to the eldest princess? Wei Ju knelt, his forehead dripping with sweat, expressing his worry. Miaoyan lifted him and said, take my body back. Mother won't blame you if she sees it. One was born for war and will die for it. Wei Ju was speechless. He felt that his life might be taken away with Miaoyan's corpse. However, in the Great Wei dynasty, Miaoyan had always been resolute. No one could change his decisions. Everyone knew this. No matter how worried Wei Ju was, it was futile. He, Su Yingxue, and the others all retreated 10 feet away. Su Yingxue's heart was filled with suspense as she silently prayed that the match between these two wouldn't be so intense. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. Bang, bang, bang. Yihan and Miaoyan clashed. The surrounding trees shattered, and a powerful wave of air burst through the sky, bouncing in all directions. Alt, help! The others managed to avoid it, but Su Miaoyan shouted in fear. Su Yingxue hugged her and flew back a few steps. Although she dodged quickly, her arm was still injured by the air wave, with a few cuts. Are you all right, Miss Su? Mo Chi hurriedly ran over, concerned. Sister, you're bleeding. Su Miaoyan hugged Su Yingxue's arm, distressed. Su Yingxue calmly took out the medicine bottle and had Su Miaoyan apply the medicine to her. The stinging sensation of the medicine on her skin made her grimace. The others looked at her and thought she was in pain. But she knew it wasn't because of the pain, but because the feeling of being injured was a little unfamiliar. It had been a long time since she had been injured, as Ziwei had always meticulously protected her. She hadn't seen Ziwei for a few days. He probably left in anger. Su Yingxue's smile was a little bitter. Before she could come to her senses, Yihan and Miaoyan both took a few steps back. Yihan used his sword to prop himself up and barely managed to stabilize his body. On the other hand, Miaoyan held his saber and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His face was pale from the severe injuries. Your Highness. Wei Ju was sweating profusely. In front of him, Miaoyan struggled to stand up and laughed heartily. Yihan, you're truly amazing. But 1 am not inferior. Chapter 693, Yihan, be careful. Yihan waited for Miaoyan to catch his breath before swiftly leaping into the air, and striking down at him. The sharp sword edge carried a thick sword energy, resembling the roar of a dragon. As the sword descended, the surrounding ground cracked, and dust filled the air. Those observing the battle from a distance of 3 meters were covered in gray dust. Miaoyan dodged the sword and countered with a fierce wind-like attack towards Yihan. The blade was so intense that vegetation withered in its wake, leaving 10 wounds on Yihan's body as his clothes were slashed open. Your Highness. Su Yingxue clenched her fists tightly. The intensity of their duel was overwhelming. If this continued, someone was bound to perish. It would ultimately end in a fight to the death. This can't be. Your Highness can't die like this. Wei Ju drew his saber, seemingly ready to rush to Qin Mayan's aid. Mo Qi shared the same sentiment. All of you, stop. However, they were all stopped by Su Yingxue. Mo Qi and Wei Ju turned around in surprise. Wei Ju said, Miss Su, are you willing to stand idly by? Your Highness is sacrificing himself for you. Miss Su, continuing this fight will lead to dire consequences. No matter what, it's not your place to intervene. Have you forgotten their agreement? Stay out of it. Su Yingxue spoke while stalling, then retrieved her red jade soft whip from her waist. She proceeded to bind Mo Qi and Wei Ju together and immobilize them. Miss Su. Wei Ju realized he couldn't break free from the whip's grip. Mo Qi warned, don't move, this whip is tight and has barbs. If they moved, they would injure themselves. Hey! Why don't you persuade Su Yingxue? Women from the Great Qing dynasty are known for their gentleness. Why is she different? Wei Ju vented his frustration. Have you forgotten who she is? She is Su Yingxue. Mo Qi retorted. Did they expect Su Yingxue to act gently? Su Miaoyan was also anxious. Unable to wipe the dust off her face, she grabbed Su Yingxue's arm. What should we do, sister? If one of them dies and the other is injured, it won't happen. Su Yingxue's lips bled from biting them. She believed Yihan would prevail. Amid their intense battle, the sky gradually darkened. Initially, they were solely focused on each other and their techniques. However, after several rounds, Yihan felt the ground shake unnaturally. Recognizing his opponent's condition, Qin Mayan paused alongside him. Yihan, what's wrong? Are you tired and considering surrender? There was a trace of mockery in his tone. Yihan sneered, if you want to surrender, I'll gladly oblige. Keep dreaming. Qin Mayan swung his saber. The clash of the Qie sword and Qing Frost sword sent sparks flying. Their moves were relentless. Qin Mayan's internal injuries weighed heavily on him, and he was running out of energy. Nevertheless, he persisted, determined to defeat Yihan with his saber techniques. Alt! Qin Mayan roared, delivering a powerful slash towards Yihan. However, he suddenly veered off course, narrowly missing Yihan's body and only slicing off half of his sleeve. Yihan looked up in surprise. He had anticipated taking the blow to defeat Qin Mayan up close, but Qin Mayan had intentionally missed. Yihan, watch your back. Qin Mayan, suffering from the backlash of his internal energy, suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. He raised his head, nervously looking at Yihan. Chapter 694, Thinking of Yihan, swish, swish, swish. Behind Yihan came a barrage of arrows. Even though he was severely wounded, he could still evade them. However, he stepped forward to intercept them, grabbed Qin Mayan, and tossed him towards Su Yingxue. Quick, go! Hey! Yihan, Qin Mayan wouldn't let him handle it alone. He saw a mass of dark figures rushing over from not far away. Oh no! It's an ambush! Wei Ju and Mo Qi shouted simultaneously. Miss Su, release us quickly. We must save your Highness. Su Yingxue retracted her whip and moved even faster than them. Your Highness. Su Yingxue's whip deflected some of the arrows. She ran to Yihan's side, only to see that 2 arrows had still struck him. Her expression darkened. I can handle this. You take your men and leave first. Yihan shielded her behind him and cut down 2 of the black-clad assailants. He pointed at Qin Mayan. He's badly wounded. You must take care of yourself and then save him. But your highness, Su Yingxue's worried expression deepened. I have a plan. These people are after me. You must leave quickly. As they spoke, clashing armor echoed, and well-trained soldiers surged forward, leaving Su Yingxue feeling deeply unsettled. What's going on? Where did these soldiers come from? Hurry, go. Yihan pushed her away from him. Wei Ju lifted Qin Mian. Your Highness, let's go. There are too many of them. Our men can't hold them off. No, save Yihan. He can't die like this. He must only die by my hand. Qin Mian trembled as he held the sword, glancing back at Yihan. These people are after Ninth Prince. Your Highness, don't get involved. Wei Ju was frantic. Qin Mian was in such a state, yet he was still concerned about Yihan. No, he can't die. I want out. Get him back for me. Hey! Yihan, let's go. What are you waiting for? Qin Mian shouted at Yihan as he was dragged away. Yihan was too occupied with the enemy to respond, but he deflected all the arrows aimed at Qin Mian with his feet. Your Highness, I'll wait for you. With tear-filled eyes, Su Yingxue turned back and shouted at Yihan. She knew her martial skills wouldn't help Yihan. She was only a hindrance. She first had to leave with Su Miaoyan and the heavily wounded Qin Mian. She instructed Wei Ju to drag Qin Mian to the trees first. She had to tend to his wounds first, or he would truly die. Yingxue, aren't you worried about Yihan? Qin Mian looked at the woman calmly applying medicine to his wounds. He was puzzled. He knew Su Yingxue liked Yihan. Her eyes were red. It pained him to see her like this. I am worried. But right now, I have to save you first. Su Yingxue took a deep breath. Your Highness will be fine. I believe in him. This declaration was sharper than all of Yihan's sword strikes. Suddenly, Qin Mian felt as if his heart had been stabbed countless times. Your Highness, there are too many people. I'm afraid we won't be able to escape. Wei Ju's men had scouted ahead and reported, the army surrounds this mountain. There's no way out. Army? Su Yingxue's eyes darkened. Where did the army come from? They're here to kill Ninth Prince. The man's indifferent voice echoed. Su Yingxue turned around and saw Xiao. How did you get in? Su Yingxue stared at him. Just moments ago, Wei Ju's men had said this place was surrounded, yet Xiao appeared. Even though Xiao was frail, it was effortless for him to pull her along. However, she was unwilling to leave Su Yingxue behind. In the dim passage, Xiao asked her in a low voice, "Do you know martial arts? Can you help your sister?" I can't, Su Miaoyan replied dejectedly. In this situation, she was indeed a burden to Su Yingxue. But as her sister, she couldn't abandon her in danger and escape with Xiao alone. Chapter 696, Sewing wounds in the chaos. Even if they were, the children of the Su family would die together. Su Miaoyan tried to break free from Xiao's grasp, but the moment she turned around, Xiao coldly threatened her, "If you turn back, I'll blow up this passage immediately." If Su Miaoyan didn't follow him, everyone would die. Handsome brother, Su Miaoyan's eyes widened with fear. Why was Xiao, besides being handsome, so frightening now? Miss Miaoyan, just listen to the young master. It's an army, not just ordinary assassins. There are thousands of soldiers. If you don't know martial arts, you'll only drag Miss Su down to her death. Follow the young master down the mountain. At least protect yourself first before thinking of a way to save Miss Su. Xiao Si tried his best to persuade her. Others might not understand, but he knew very well that if Su Miaoyan dared to go back, Xiao Yu would indeed blow up the passage. He might look cold, but the ruthless streak in him had always been there. Su Miaoyan took small steps and returned to Xiao Ye's side, but she didn't dare to let him hold her hand again. Luckily, they were fast, and the exit at the foot of the mountain went unnoticed by the Imperial Guards. Xiao Yu successfully got her onto the carriage back to Qilin Garden. Meanwhile, Su Yingxue and the others had just entered the passageway. Qin Mian refused to leave without her. To save his life, Su Yingxue had no choice but to go down the mountain with him. Saint Juan spread poison all the way. Su Yingxue instructed him not to be in the cave so that Yihan could leave safely. Saint Juan wiped the dust off his face. Yihan won't come this way. If the enemy finds out, we'll be in trouble. As they talked, the sound of footsteps echoed from the cave entrance. They're there, quick, chase them. Armed men came pouring in. Fortunately, Saint Juan's poison incapacitated them one by one, and they didn't dare to chase too fast. Su Yingxue and Qin Mian successfully descended the mountain. Qin Mian had lost a lot of blood on the way. No amount of blood-clotting grass could fully seal his wounds. Su Yingxue examined his wounds and frowned. I have to suture your wounds first, or you'll bleed to death. Now. Wei Ju was shocked. But we're not safe yet. We could be hunted down at any moment. We should hurry up and escape now. I'll try to move as fast as possible, but you all must stay vigilant. Su Yingxue said firmly. Su Yingxue looked at Qin Mian's gruesome wounds, already taking out the silver needles and thread. She squatted beside Qin Mian, closed her eyes, and entered the Medicine King Valley in her mind. She heated the silver needles and also gathered plenty of blood-clotting grass. After crushing it, she brought it out. Hey, you rushed in here without even sparing a glance at me. Little Ginseng complained in Su Yingxue's mind. It had been a long time since it had played with Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue hadn't come to chat with it lately, except to gather herbs. It was too boring. I'm busy right now. Su Yingxue's forehead glistened with sweat as she threaded the needle swiftly. They're getting closer. We're surrounded. If you stitch now, we'll all die here. Saint Juan's lightness skill allowed him to dash. He had darted around, exploring the surroundings thoroughly. Everywhere he looked, there were soldiers in black armor. If they didn't run, they would soon become victims under someone else's blade. No. If we don't stitch his wounds, he'll bleed out soon. Su Yingxue applied the crushed blood-clotting grass to Qin Mian's wounds. The pain jolted him awake. Chapter 697, The Last Needle. Just now, although he was semi-conscious, Saint Juan's words were not unheard. He grasped Su Yingxue's hand, his face pale but still retaining a sense of pride. Let's go, don't worry about me. I'll protect you to the end. He refused to let go of the sword in his hand. Before his death, he could still confront the enemy for Su Yingxue. Your Highness, what nonsense are you talking? I can't let a patient die in front of me and run away alone. I'll suture your wound as quickly as possible. Qin Mian was strong, but he couldn't resist Su Yingxue's determination. Feeling that he was hindering her, Su Yingxue instructed Wei Ju to help hold Qin Mian down. Normally, Wei Ju wouldn't dare, but now he had to save Qin Mian's life. Hey, Su Yingxue, you're going to sew. There's a mass of people over there, all of them are coming. Saint Juan was frantic. If Su Yingxue hadn't insisted on staying, he would have fled long ago. What did Qin Mian matter to him? However, Su Yingxue's needle was already piercing Qin Mian's body. Her expression was serious, and she wouldn't leave until the stitching was done. Saint Wand cursed in frustration. Damn it! He could only rush forward, using his poison to take down as many enemies as possible. Su Yingxue remained composed amidst the chaotic clash of weapons. Even amidst the deafening battle cries, she remained unfazed. Su Yingxue didn't have time to administer the anesthetic. Qin Mian gritted his teeth and endured silently. The woman before him showed no hint of fear. He was a man, how could he cry out in pain? Yet, the more steadfast Su Yingxue's efforts, the faster his heart raced. Your Highness, if it hurts, take a deep breath. It'll be as quick as possible. Su Yingxue's needle pierced through flesh. 1, 2, 3 stitches, the wound on his chest was soon closed. Su Yingxue shifted her position to Qin Mian's right leg. Hey, I can't hold on much longer. There are too many people in this army, Saint Wand lamented bitterly. His poison could incapacitate, but it was no match for their overwhelming numbers. Wave after wave of assailants overwhelmed him and Wei Ju. They couldn't hold out much longer. Wei Ju fought desperately to protect Qin Mian. When an enemy thrust a spear, he risked his own life to block it. Su Yingxue, watch out behind you. A blade came hurtling towards her. Su Yingxue's hands were focused as she worked. When the cold wind howled behind her, she did a backflip, her red clothes fluttering. She spun in the air, landing steadily, but her needle and thread were unaffected. That one needle accurately pierced through Qin Mian's wound, pulling it together. Wei Ju gasped. Su Yingxue's calmness was unparalleled. Saint Wand breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness you reacted quickly. But who was the one who threw that blade so swiftly? Damn girl, watch out. Blades flew not only from behind but also from all directions behind Qin Mian. Your Highness, Miss Su. Wei Ju's eyes widened, his heart racing. They were running out of time. Saint Wand was too late. So many blades were flying towards Su Yingxue. And yet, she continued to stitch. One last stitch. Su Yingxue's eyes widened suddenly. After this final stitch, she could finally evade. Yingxue, many of your reasons make sense, but I only believe in one principle. Even if I fall in battle, I will protect you. His words resonated powerfully, causing everyone to shudder. Saint Wand felt a pang of bitterness. You're already injured like this, yet you still want to protect me. He was indeed a tough nut to crack, not yielding even to a sword. But it had to be said, that with his determination, he might be able to protect Su Yingxue for a while. Su Yingxue's heart trembled for a moment, but only briefly. She took a deep breath and locked her gaze with Qin Mian's. Your Highness, I appreciate your concern, but would you still protect me if I choose to go to Yihan? I vow to do so. What if I choose to stand by his side, even in death? Chapter 699, A tragic way Su Yingxue couldn't help but laugh. Your Highness, 3 people can't fit in one coffin. Qin Mian was stunned. Wei Ju was equally dumbfounded. Only Saint Wand almost burst into laughter, his stomach aching from holding it in. Saint Wand thought, when a woman rejects a man, she can be ruthless. Qin Mian was helped back into his wheelchair, not because he was rejected by Su Yingxue, but because Su Yingxue pleaded with him, please take care of yourself, Your Highness. For my sake, don't give the great Qing dynasty and the great Wei dynasty a reason to start a war. He responded, all right. On the surface, Qin Mian left voluntarily, but he knew his heart was in pieces. He didn't know if he would ever see Su Yingxue again. She wanted to die alongside Yihan. Hey, see you at the Marquis Manor. One still want to play with you. Saint Juan was blunt. He jumped onto a tree, waved goodbye to Yingxue, and flew away. He had no attachment and didn't want to risk his life, but he sincerely hoped Yingxue would return alive. Otherwise, his long life would be too damn boring. Ziwei was clearing out the Imperial Guards who wanted to kill Yingxue. Even though the Imperial Guards were well-trained and skilled, they stopped in fear when faced with Ziwei's ruthless determination. Yingxue walked up to Ziwei and asked, "Can you take me back up the mountain?" Ziwei looked around at the Imperial Guards but nodded confidently. Yes. Yingxue trusted Ziwei and followed him back up the mountain. Since the situation was like this, she couldn't leave Yihan alone. His injuries were just as severe as Qin Miaoyan's. As they ascended the mountain, they passed through scenes of carnage, the air thick with the smell of blood. When Yingxue stumbled over a corpse, she couldn't help but tremble at the sight of the gruesome death. She had seen death, and she had experienced it herself, but she had never witnessed such brutality. Her worry for Yihan grew with each step. "Does it hurt?" Ziwei asked, helping her up. But when Ziwei saw her pale face, he stopped in his tracks. There were pursuers behind them, but Ziwei's bloodthirsty aura alone forced them to retreat, afraid to pursue further. Yingxue shook her head, her face not looking good, but she insisted on going up the mountain. The higher they climbed, the more gruesome the scene became, with carnage everywhere and the ground beneath their feet stained red with blood. Finally, Yingxue spotted Yihan. His once white clothes were now drenched in red, the original color indistinguishable. Yingxue moved to rush forward, but seeing him roar and cut down dozens of foes with a single stroke, she hesitated. He didn't know where Mochi was. Yihan fought alone, yet the enemy soldiers around him trembled. When he turned to face her, Yingxue met his blood-red eyes, her heart skipping a beat. "This isn't good, he's bloodthirsty." Yihan could sense a familiar presence nearby, but he couldn't stop. All he could think about was killing. The scent of blood in the air excited him, driving him to seek more. "Your Highness!" Yingxue shouted. But Yihan seemed oblivious, cutting down any Imperial Guards who approached him in the most brutal manner possible. Someone even attempted to attack him with hidden weapons from afar. Chapter 700, Bloodthirsty Yihan, "Your Highness, watch out behind you!" Yingxue exclaimed, prompting Yihan to turn around and swing his sword. The hidden weapons aimed at him were all deflected in the opposite direction with 10 times the force of their initial attack. Puff! 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 Those individuals were all killed. Yingxue's heart slowly eased as she approached Yihan. Ziwei intercepted her. "Don't go, it's dangerous." Having been an assassin for many years, Ziwei was highly sensitive to auras. Yihan couldn't recognize anyone now, so he would attack anyone who approached. If Yingxue went over, she would end up like the corpses beside him. He won't. "Last time, Your Highness had an episode in the palace, and he woke up because of me. I can wake him up again." Yingxue confidently stepped forward. "No." Ziwei wasn't clear about their relationship, but he knew he couldn't let Yingxue near the danger he sensed. "Your Highness recognizes me. He won't harm me." As Yingxue spoke, Yihan approached with bloodshot eyes. His eyes were consumed by the sea of blood, turning him into a different person entirely. Normally, he was as cold as an immortal, distant and unreachable. But now, bathed in blood, he was like a demon, ready to engulf anyone in his path. Ziwei only protected Yingxue. Yihan roared furiously and attacked him. Get back. Ziwei pushed Su Yingxue away. Though unmatched in the assassin world, he couldn't fully resist Chu Yihan's domineering sword energy. Cough, he coughed up blood. Not dead. Chu Yihan squinted, his blood boiling. How could someone survive his attacks? Kill him. That was Chu Yihan's only thought as he leaped into the air, sword swinging. Your Highness, stop. Ziwei is here to protect me. Don't kill him, Your Highness. Su Yingxue rushed forward in a hurry. She used the red jade soft whip to entangle Chu Yihan's hand, preventing him from swinging his sword. Chu Yihan glared at Su Yingxue angrily and said, You're seeking death. Your Highness, it's me, Su Yingxue. As she spoke, Chu Yihan broke free and sent her flying. Thankfully, Ziwei caught her, preventing serious injury. We can't get close to him. Let's go. Ziwei pulled Su Yingxue away. In Chu Yihan's current state, he wouldn't die, but anyone who approached him would. No, I can't leave Your Highness alone. Su Yingxue tried to go forward again, but Chu Yihan attacked once more. She pushed away Ziwei, stood her ground, and said softly, Your Highness. Chu Yihan's sword stopped just an inch from her neck. He couldn't harm her. Su Yingxue reached out and touched his cheek. Your Highness, are you in pain? Please stop, don't kill anymore. No, Chu Yihan shook his head. He couldn't stop. He needed more blood. In the shadows, Chu Qingye, preparing for an ambush, saw an opportunity to strike. But Su Jinxian restrained him. Your Highness, wait. Let Chu Yihan kill Su Yingxue first, then capture him. Why? If Su Yingxue wakes him up in this state, it's over. We can't let her cure Chu Yihan. Chapter 701, Don't Talk, Kiss You. Chu Qingye was becoming impatient. He thought now was the best time to kill Chu Yihan. Don't rush. Su Yingxue doesn't stand a chance, and she won't even imagine dying at the hands of her beloved. Su Jinxian whispered sinisterly, like a demon from hell. He stealthily approached and launched 3 hidden weapons at Chu Yihan from behind Su Yingxue. Chu Yihan swung his sword and knocked them down, but his gaze turned fierce. You lied to me. I didn't. Your Highness, I won't harm you. I promise to cure your bloodthirst. Su Yingxue shook her head. She hadn't cured Chu Yihan yet, the silver needle in her sleeve remained unused. It's you. Behind Su Yingxue, Ziwei swiftly intervened and tangled up Su Jinxian. He would never allow Su Yingxue to be harmed. Seeing Su Jingxuan's success, Chu Qingye noticed Chu Yihan becoming wary of Su Yingxue and grinned maliciously. Well done. Chu Yihan, go ahead. Kill the woman you love with your own hands. Then I'll capture you and let father execute you to vent his anger. No longer in a hurry, he waited for Chu Yihan to kill Su Yingxue. However, when Chu Yihan moved toward Su Yingxue, she discarded the red jade soft whip and rushed to embrace him. At the last moment, Chu Yihan angled his sword, allowing Su Yingxue to hug him. Su Yingxue's soft voice came from his embrace. Your Highness, see. I won't hurt you, will I? Yes. Chu Yihan didn't feel pain, but his heart raced. Thump, thump, his chest felt like it would burst. Alt. He roared in agony. He was in pain. His body felt like it was about to burst open. Your Highness, calm down, don't get agitated. Seizing the opportunity, Su Yingxue fed him medicine and gently patted his chest. Soon, his chest heaving subsided. Tears of relief filled Su Yingxue's eyes. Your Highness, it's all right now, he wouldn't kill anymore. Yihan felt extremely uncomfortable, with his meridians throbbing all over his body. Every blood vessel felt like it was about to burst. However, the person holding him was like a soothing rain, gradually dissipating the sudden heat from his body. Your Highness, don't speak. My kiss will soothe you. Yingxue sensed his expanding meridians and acted quickly to prevent them from bursting. Yihan winced in pain, his brows furrowing. Yingxue cradled his face, not minding the blood on his face. Her soft lips gently brushed over his eyebrows and nose bridge, and finally landed on his thin lips. Finally, she fed him the spring water extracted from Medicine King Valley. Cold, a sudden chill coursed through him. Yingxue hugged him. Calm down, Your Highness. Once the medicine takes effect, you won't feel pain anymore. As Yihan relaxed, Yingxue inserted a silver needle into his neck. Ah! After a slight sting, Yihan's body temperature gradually dropped. He felt drowsy and heavy. Struggling to keep his eyes open, he hoarsely whispered, Yingxue, his illness had flared up again. Yingxue was still in his arms. Had he hurt her? Your Highness, it's all right now. Rest well, Yingxue murmured. Yingxue's delicate and boneless hand gently patted Yihan's back, tenderly comforting him. Chapter 702. Let Yihan kill Yingxue. Personally, Yihan's vigilance and wariness gradually diminished. Yingxue, you're quite something. My imperial uncle, who kills without hesitation, couldn't even manage to kill you. You've truly disappointed me. Qingye arrived with his men on horseback. Clad in armor, he looked imposing. Amidst his arrogance, there was a strong sense of hatred. Qingye, you deliberately caused Your Highness to fall ill. Yingxue glared at him. All of this was his scheme. Of course. The intense battle with Miaoyan will stimulate his bloodline. Another battle will turn him into a beast consumed by the lust for combat. This bloody battle is far more intense than the previous one in the palace. Qingye's handsome face bore a sinister expression. To trigger Yihan's bloodlust, he sacrificed nearly 10,000 lives on this mountain for Yihan to slaughter. All this effort had birthed a bloodthirsty monster. His goal had been achieved. Don't even think about harming Your Highness. A cold and merciless aura flashed in Yingxue's beautiful eyes. That needle you just used, my imperial uncle would have already passed out, right? How do you plan to protect him? Qingye sneered. Of course, you could pull out the needles and let him continue killing. He won't be able to finish off all 50,000 of my soldiers. Once he's done, he'll likely burst and die. Today, Yihan's fate is sealed. In your dreams. Yingxue swiftly shot out several silver needles, but Qingye deflected them with his sword. He glared at Yingxue. Wretch! Still resisting even when facing death. You're almost dead. Kneel and beg for mercy now, and I might spare your life. I'll let you watch Yihan die. Qingye, did you forget to check yourself out before stepping out today? A smile bloomed on Yingxue's beautiful face, as enchanting as a rose in full bloom. Alt. Qingye was knocked to the ground by a dark figure. Before he could rise, a cold blade was at his neck. Ziwei had been waiting in the sky, seizing the opportunity when Qingye was distracted. How does it feel, Seventh Prince? Tongue-tied. Do you need me to cure your brain's malfunction? Yingxue mercilessly taunted. Even with 50,000 men, Qingye was still nothing compared to Yihan. Yingxue, you. Qingye gritted his teeth, but the blade had already cut his neck. The scent of blood made his heart tremble. Don't kill me. You dare. He hadn't forgotten how terrifying the assassin beside Su Yingxue was. Yingxue, in Su Yingxue's embrace, Yihan slowly regained consciousness. Some of the blood in his eyes had faded. Su Yingxue hugged him in relief. Your Highness, you're awake. Thankfully, she had awakened him in time. My bloodlust. Yihan looked at his reddened arms, knowing his eyes were bloodshot from killing. Your Highness, Ziwei has captured Chu Qingye. Let's go. Su Yingxue helped Yihan up, ready to depart. Su Yingxue, how dare you? Do you realize you're betraying the country? Yihan is a traitor. I'm here by father's order to restore order. If you dare take him away, it's treason. Father will execute the entire Marquis family. None of your Su family will escape. Chu Qingye roared. He wouldn't let Yihan leave so easily. Chapter 703 I Must kill Yihan. Treason. When did your Highness betray the country? He's the one who protected the vast territory of the great Qing dynasty. The prosperity of Jiangdu City is all thanks to your Highness' leadership. How can he be accused of treason? Even if there were such allegations, they would be baseless accusations from your side. Su Yingxue shot back fiercely at Chu Qingye. Chu Qingye felt extremely indignant. He watched as Yihan, escorted by Su Yingxue, was taken away, and his anger burned within him. No. Even if it cost him his life today, he couldn't allow Yihan to leave safely. Men, attack. Kill them all and leave no one alive. Chu Qingye bellowed. The Imperial Guards, who had been concerned for Chu Qingye's safety, immediately began to stir. With added force, Ziwei's blade opened a gash in Chu Qingye's neck, causing blood to spurt out. But instead of being driven back, the Imperial Guards began advancing slowly towards them. Yihan shielded Su Yingxue behind him. Go, leave this to me, he said in a hoarse voice. No. Your Highness just had an episode, you can't fight anymore. Su Yingxue held Yihan tightly. She wouldn't allow Yihan to take action again. She couldn't bear to see Yihan die before her eyes. Attack. Today, no matter what, I must capture Yihan and Su Yingxue, dead or alive. Kill them. Chu Qingye, risking being held hostage by Ziwei, continued to command the Imperial Guards. He threw his token, and the commander of the Imperial Guards picked it up. By the 7th Prince's order, attack. The Imperial Guards quickly stormed the palace, and Yihan was ready to step forward with his sword. Wait! Su Yingxue shouted. You no longer want Chu Qingye's life, do you? Fine, I'll let you witness his torment until he dies and turns into a pool of pus and blood. Su Yingxue rushed to Chu Qingye, forced his mouth open, and shoved some medicine inside. Chu Qingye was forced to swallow the medicine, his face turning purple. Shortly after, he collapsed to the ground, convulsing violently. His eyes bulged as he stared at Su Yingxue. You ruthless woman, what have you done? He felt as if his entire body was on fire, every nerve screaming in agony. Before he could adjust to the searing pain, a chilling sensation spread from his body. It felt as if he had been submerged in ice, his blood freezing, his body stiffening. Cold. So cold. Alt. No. It's too hot. I'm going to die. Oh. Su Yingxue, kill her. He had to kill her. The Imperial Guard's commander had initially intended to follow Chu Qingye's orders and kill Yihan, dead or alive. But now, in so much pain, if he did indeed turn into a pool of pus and blood as Su Yingxue had said, there would be nobody to present to the emperor. They would surely be executed. What? Your Highness. What should they do? Should they continue the attack? Kill him. Ah. Chu Qingye struggled desperately on the brink of death, his hair disheveled. But even in this state, he couldn't let Yihan off the hook. With bloodshot eyes, he glared at Su Yingxue, hoarsely warning her, You can't escape. My IOO strong army has surrounded you. You will die for sure. Even if it cost him his life. Even if he turned into a puddle of pus and blood, he would take Yihan and Su Yingxue down with him. Su Yingxue furrowed her brows. Chu Qingye was certainly stubborn. But she couldn't let Yihan die here. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. The two men beside Su Yingxue spoke simultaneously. Chu Yihan's voice was resolute, while Ziwei's voice was low and raspy. Chapter 704, Chu Yihan's Authority. The two exchanged a glance, seeing in each other's eyes a fierce determination to protect Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue smirked. I'm not that timid. If she were easily frightened, she wouldn't have brought Ziwei with her to find Yihan. Yihan took a brief rest and had already regained some strength. When the Imperial Guard's commander led the attack, he made sure that those people did not harm Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue retrieved the red jade soft whip, but its utility was limited. Because the two men by her side were guarding her tightly. Chu Qingye had been helped to his feet. Despite vomiting blood and his face turning pale, he still sneered at Su Yingxue. You, just wait to be buried with me. How despicable. Su Yingxue had the urge to rush up and slap him. Chu Qingye, your only chance has failed. The man swung his sword fiercely. Wherever his sword energy went, it was like turbulent waves crashing. 100 Imperial Guards fell under his blade instantly. The Imperial Guard's commander, a martial arts expert in the Great Qing dynasty, was alarmed by Chu Yihan's terrifying martial prowess. How many years would it take for a normal person to reach this level? No. No matter how many years he trained, it was impossible to reach it. He couldn't help but step back. Chu Qingye, enduring the torment of the poison, became even more irritable. I haven't failed. I won't fail. He roared at Chu Yihan. This time, he would take Chu Yihan's life. Chu Yihan, covered in blood, wore a devilish smile on his face. He was both enchanting and devilish. Su Yingxue was also puzzled. It wasn't until she heard the thunderous sound of hooves behind her that she realized an army was approaching with an overwhelming aura. The sky seemed to be shrouded in darkness. Su Yingxue was slightly shocked. The Black Cloud Cavalry. Su Yingxue thought, finally, they are here. Chu Yihan's Black Cloud Cavalry had been mobilized just in time. Ziwei, worried about their intentions, protected Su Yingxue's back. The Imperial Guard's commander trembled. Your Highness, it's the Black Cloud Cavalry. So what if it's the Black Cloud Cavalry? They're only 5,000 elites. With my hundreds of thousands of Imperial Guards, can't we defeat Chu Yihan's Black Cloud Cavalry? Kill them all. Chu Qingye, driven mad by the poison, had bloodshot eyes. I've mobilized the Black Cloud Cavalry. The troops stationed around Yanyan City are almost here. Chu Qingye, you're the one surrounded. Chu Yihan shattered Chu Qingye's delusions mercilessly. Chu Qingye vomited blood and screamed, this is impossible. Mobilizing troops takes at least a day. My father ordered them to retreat outside the 3 cities. You're isolated and helpless. How could anyone surround my Imperial Guards? Your Highness, you've already mobilized your troops. Su Yingxue couldn't believe it. The man before her was incredibly wise. From the moment he decided to compete with Qin Miaoyan, everything was under his control. Xiao Ye's secret passage would surely save them. So thorough. It'll protect you. Yihan embraced her slender waist and planted a kiss on her forehead. Yingxue looked at him with admiration. The battle continued unabated, with more falling around them. The sounds of weapons, the cries of battle, the blood underfoot, and the corpses never ceased. She had experienced a bloody storm, unlike anything in her previous life.